Welcome. My name is Matt Bautel, and in this unit we're going to be learning about using SQLite in Android. I'd like to start off by showing you the app that we're going to be building here. So this is our SQLite quiz scores app, and I have it running on my emulator. And I've already input a number of people and some scores here. You'll notice that it keeps them sorted by score in decreasing order. If I wanted to add a new score, so let's say that I want to add in Anna here, and Anna got a 91 for a score. We go ahead and add. We see that she's added right into the correct order here. Then what I want to do is I want to do an update or something, or delete. Maybe Herb, we don't really want him, so I long press on him, and I can delete that score. And if I want to do an update on somebody, say I want to update my score here, to either increase, then I could either just do a short press or I could do a long press. If I do a short press, it's just going to come up here, and I can add, maybe this is a 92, and we'll see that it resorts them appropriately. All right. I could rotate the screen, and we see that it will it'll come back. All right. And in fact, even if I were to close out this app. So let's go ahead and do this. Should have rotated it first, I think. Click on this guy again. So it's going to launch for the first time. And we see that all the data here persists. All right, so lots of good stuff is going to happen here as a result of using SQLite. So we're going to learn many things to be able to do this. So let's see what we got here. So the first and foremost thing is we're going to be writing a class here called a data adapter that's actually going to implement the different CRUD methods, right? We'll talk about CRUD in a second here. As part of that, we're going to be extending the database open helper class. All right, we'll be using a couple of new ideas here, so using cursors and content values. And then we're also going to be calling the SQLite database methods directly to do some of these operations here. And finally, more on the UI side, we're going to learn how to use cursor adapters to update our list view. So what is SQLite? Simply, it's just a relational database. And it's set up, the light means that it is a library, not a separate process, so it can be embedded into applications. And because of that, a lot of embedded systems, a lot of mobile platforms, in fact, all of the major players these days, all use SQLite for their database, right? So good stuff here. What does it do? It's going to store data in tables, right? That's what we mean by relational. If we wanted just to look at the example in our app, for each person, we're going to have a name and a score, and then we're going to have some kind of an ID here that it's going to use to reference it, right? And it's we have one for each one. So each row essentially is going to correspond to an object, right? To a model object, right? Very much the right thing to do on mobile devices. Like we say, everybody use them, whether that's iOS or Windows Phone or Android. Can do lots of things. You might be wondering, well, what about media or anything like that? And it just stores URLs, and it can get those from other places. Okay, so let's talk about some of the new concepts here. So these things like content values and cursors, right? So simply, content values is just a simple single table row, right? And it's going to map names of columns here, right, to values, right? So very simply, we could say, hey, make a content value, and then put in with a certain key into my database a specific value, right? And I'll be very much writing methods that are going to convert back and forth from content values to our scores model object. Right? So that's the first thing. Secondly is a cursor, right? So a cursor is essentially just a pointer to a whole result set that was returned by a query, right? So maybe I have a query that says something like, give me all the entries or all the scores that are over 80, right? And in that case, it would return this set here. Okay, and the nice thing about cursors is that they're iterable, right? So you can write code that essentially says, as long as the cursor has a next, and go ahead and move there, then process that entry, right? So what else can we do here? We can initialize the cursor by moving it to the beginning. We can get column indices, get strings, and so on. We'll have plenty of examples of using those. Okay. All right, the next thing for new concepts, if you've taken a database class, these ideas are not going to be new to you, but just in case, since it's not a prerequisite for this course, let's do a quick review here, right? So SQLite databases give us a bunch of methods here for CRUD, right? So what does CRUD stand for? All right, CRUD just means that we're going to have these 4 functions supported in our program, right? So CRUD, CRUD. So create, we need to be able to create entries. And to do that, we're going to be using an insert method. All these methods are going to take a table as a parameter, right? So which table do you want to insert into? In our examples, we're just going to be using a single table, so it'll be pretty straightforward. And then just go ahead and pass in a content values, right? So that's gonna add a row, and it's gonna return the ID that it was assigned, right? The next one here, the R in CRUD is read. So to read from our data, we're going to be performing queries. The simplest ones are, in addition to the table, we're going to ask which columns we want, which is probably going to be all, and then some sort of query parameters here, like a where clause, if you're familiar with that. But selecting ones with certain IDs, or maybe even all IDs, right? And then there's a whole bunch of options that are supported here. Ordering and so on. All right, and that's going to return, like we said, is going to return a cursor over the result set. All right, updating, there is appropriately named, there's an update method, and that you'd give it your table, and then give it content values of the new item, the new values that you want it to have, and then the selection. So how are you going to identify the item that's going to be updated? Usually we'll just be passing in something with a unique ID, right? And that'll return the number of rows that have been updated. In our example, it's only going to be 1 row at a time. And finally, there's a delete method here, and you just tell it what you want to delete, what your parameters are, and then it returns how many rows have been deleted. Again, in our case, we're going to be deleting 1 row at a time, so this is just going to be something that's going to be specifying a certain ID. All right, that's our overview. We'll see you in the next lesson.